Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we have one of my favorite types of videos to film, and that is a spoiler review video. Uh, you probably just like me are addicted to spoilers. They're like one of the best parts about card games. I look at spoilers for card games I don't even play anymore. It's just really fun to see new cards. Uh, Designing cards is cool. Seeing how people that do it professionally do it is really cool too. So I love spoiler season. It's the best time of the year, and I'm excited to talk about the new cards because we got quite a lot of new cards today. The Calling Indianapolis is this weekend, starting tomorrow, and they decided to use the event to spoil a lot of cards. The artists that are at the event are selling some prints of these new cards. Some of the vendors are selling some prints of the cards, and they just showed a lot off. So let's hop into the first one, which is quite a banger. We've got Death Touch here. It's a promo. This is a promo for the Calling Baltimore for entering. It also comes with 3 tokens, I think, in cold foil. But I am going to guess it's a mythic, a majestic, whatever it's called. I think it's going to be a majestic. Um, just based on how good the blue would be. I don't know. I mean, if it's a rare or a common and there's a blue of this, it's also quite good. But I'm just gonna go out a limb and guess it's a majestic. But either way, it's a very powerful card. It's a 1 cost red. It attacks for 6, which is already way over rate. I guess I say way over rate. It's 1 over 8, right? 1 for 5 is already pretty good value. You're pretty happy with the 1 for 5. Some decks play a 1 for 4 go again is already pretty good. You know, look at Ninja; they play all the 1 for 4 go agains. Um, so 1 for 5 is fine, and 1 for 6 is pretty good. This is what like Yellow Wartune Herald was played as in Prism and was one of her better cards. So already a good rate. Only blocks for 2. Definitely a downside there. And the biggest downside is that it cannot be played from hand, right? So basically, you have to play it from your arsenal, or if you have an effect that lets you play it from like your banish zone by banishing it or playing it from the top of your deck. I mean, there's a few other ways to get around it, but the main way you're going to play it is from arsenal, right? The easiest way to play it is from arsenal. But that is not the end of the world. There are already cards like Lightning Surge and Briar that you play and need to be played from Arsenal. I guess Lightning Surge doesn't need to be played from Arsenal, but gets a lot better when played from Arsenal. This one has to be played from somewhere other than the hand, but I think it's just so high power it's worth it because it also has the effect of when it hits, you create either a Frailty, Inertia, or a Bloodrot Pox token under the opponent's control, right? So in one of my previous videos, I talked about how there's possibly like a plague or toxin talent in the set, probably like a plague talent. I don't know if there's going to be a talent in the set. They haven't hinted at it, and it doesn't seem likely at this point. But there are 3 plagues that the set is kind of themed around. A lot of the cards give one of the plagues, or for this one, give one of any of the 3 plagues. And they're all negative auras that go under the opponent's control. Let's look at those just to see how good this is. So remember, 1 for 6 damage, already pretty good. Bloodrot Pox seems to be one of the best ones. This says at the beginning of your end phase, destroy it. Then it deals 2 damage to you unless you pay 3 resources, right? And you're giving these to your opponent, obviously. So if the opponent is taking the damage, you paid 1 for 8 damage, which is just very good, right? 1 for 8 damage is incredible. Usually it takes 2 full cards to deal 8 damage at 0 cost, right? So if you're playing Scar for Scar into Scar for Scar, that's 8 damage with 2 cards. This is 1 card, and you can play it off a Tunic resource, right? So this could be literally just a 1 card for 8, which is very above rate. And makes it super playable. We'll get back to those cards, but I just want to look at the other 2 sicknesses, the other 2 plagues. We've got Inertia here. This one says at the beginning of your end phase, destroy it. Then put all cards from your hand and arsenal on the bottom of your deck, right? So once again, you're giving these to your opponent. This makes it so your opponent can't keep an arsenal or any cards in hand, right? So kind of a seek and destroy style effect. They have to get rid of all of the cards in their hand and arsenal at the end of their turn before they draw up. So they don't get to keep anything. They have to throw everything at you on that turn. Inertia, of course, kind of slowing the opponent down. And then Frailty is unfortunately a little sideways here, but it just says your attack action cards played from Arsenal and weapon attacks have -1 power. The beginning of your end phase, destroy it. So for the whole turn that your opponent has this, their weapon attacks have -1 power, and any attack actions they play from their arsenal have -1 power, right? And that is trying to have some play within the set for limited viability, right? There are rangers in the set, which have to play all their arrows and cards from arsenal. Like this is an assassin and ranger card. And there's also some cards like this one that are often going to be played from arsenal that'll actually, if someone hits you with a death touch and you have a death touch in arsenal, they can give your death touch -1, right? It gives any card, any attack actions played from arsenal for that turn -1. But the weapon part's even bigger, right? Because -1 on something like a spider bite, which is the assassin's current weapon, makes them both attack for 0 that turn. Against the harmonized Kodachi, they attack for 0. Against decks like Dorinthia that use their weapon a lot, makes it a lot worse for that turn. So seems pretty good. The best one does seem to be for an aggressive deck, the Bloodrot Pox here. It's 2 free damage is pretty good. Obviously, they can pay 3 damage to prevent it, but you are pretty happy with that, right? Because if they're paying 3 resources, that's probably a card that they would block with or want to attack with, and you're just slowing them down a lot. They have to use a full card to prevent the 2 damage. So you're pretty happy either way if they have to use a whole blue to stop 2 damage. So that one seems pretty good. So at the very worst case scenario, this is like a 1 for 8 damage you're threatening, which is very, very, very good. And then with each of the plagues, we got a card that is an assassin card that goes with it, and then an assassin reaction that goes with it. Each of the assassin cards cost 0. They're commons, which means there's likely also a yellow and a blue version that have less power. They cost 0, block 3, attack for 3, have stealth, and when they hit, they make that token under your opponent's control. So, there's one of these for each. This one is Infect, works with a Bloodrot Pox. You can see next to the Inertia one, there's also, actually, next to the Frailty, there's also Bloodrot Pox, but there's likely one for that one as well. And then Wither, this one has the Wither one. I know these cards are unfortunately sideways, but they all do the same thing. This one is Sedate. But they all do the same thing, so I'll just pull up the one that's easiest to read. So there is one of these for each of them. They're all 0 for 3s, just to make sure they're all 0 for 3s, 0 for 3, and 0 for 3, right? And then they also have a reaction that costs 1 and gives a card with stealth, an attack action with stealth +3, and the on hit of when it hits a hero, it makes that plague token, right? And there's one of these for each of the plague tokens. These are rares, the reactions. These are commons, the attack actions. All the attack actions have stealth. And so, yeah, it looks like there's a cycle of each. And a reaction being a 3-block is pretty nice. And the rates on these is pretty good, right? We don't know what stealth does yet, unfortunately. My guess is that either the more fun way it could work that one of my teammates put forward is that when you attack with it, you play it face down as an attack, and your opponent has to guess what it is, right? Like you just are hiding what the attack is. I think that'd be pretty cool. It might be a little too good because it might make your opponent just never block or have to overblock. It might be too good. But I think that stealth is going to be, it can't be blocked by cards with more power, right? So if a card has 4 power or greater, it cannot block Infect. Some way for, cards with more power get punished, makes it good into Guardian, for example, or Brute, stuff like that. So that's my guess, but let's not worry about the stealth parts. Let's just say this hits, right? When this hits a hero, create a Bloodrot Pox under their control. So 3 damage it dealt, ideally, and then they also take 2 more from Bloodrot, which makes this a 0 for 5, which is great. Spike with Bloodrot is +3, and it gives them a Bloodrot, right? So this is a 1 for 5 also, basically, right? So a 0 for 5 here, and then a 1 for 5. Both very good effects. Bloodrot Pox does seem to be one of the strongest, especially because damage is good against everyone. The other 2 are more conditional, right? So we had Frailty gives them minus on the weapon and on attack actions played from Arsenal. And that's only good against certain decks like Ranger or decks that go wide with their weapons. So you might want to sideboard some of those, but not as powerful as this one. And then we had the last one down here, which was the Inertia one where they have to, discard, or not discard actually, you put them on the bottom, but you get rid of your hand in Arsenal before the end of your turn. Also, not quite as good as 2 damage in my opinion. It is pretty good, and this one's probably the second best one since it's not really conditional like Every hero does want to use their arsenal in hand, basically. So this one's not bad either, but I think Blood Rot Pox does seem to be the strongest. Because, if this one's 0 for 3 damage, it doesn't deal anything extra. They just have to kind of lose some cards from it. But this one seems particularly good, and I can see, if this is making it so it's harder to block, you're just getting a 0 for 5, which is way above rate. 0 for 5 is like the highest you can currently really get from an attack. Most attacks are 0 for 4, and then maybe they have an on hit. This is pretty good effect, and the spike with Blood Rot also seems to be pretty good. Even the blues of these are going to be fine, right? Because they're going to be a blue that 3 blocks, and then still does 3 damage, or the spike is still going to deal 3 damage. So I really like those. That's enough of the new assassin cards, though. We have 2 other really cool cards to look at. I'm really excited for this card, right? I used to play Katsu over a year ago now, when he was a lot stronger than he currently is, and I would love for Katsu to come back. I really enjoy the combo mechanic. It is unfortunately too weak right now, but I'm hoping they can push it because combo mechanic is so parasitic on itself. You can just push it, right? Like, the combo mechanic is hard to pull off a lot of the time. Obviously, Katsu's hero ability makes it a bit easier to pull off, but I think this is a great card to show off like how pushed they can make combo. This is a 2 for 4 that blocks for 3. As a red here, it's a rare, so it might be a full cycle as well. But it's not usually going to cost you 2 when you're trying to play it. What it says is combo, if a card with Gust Wave in its name was the last attack this combat chain, this costs 2 less to play, so it'll cost 0, and it has Go Again. So now it's a 0 for 4 Go Again. It also has when this attacks, so it's not an on-hit, it just happens. You can banish a card with combo from your graveyard. If you do, you search your deck for a card with the same name, banish it, then shuffle. You may play it this combat chain. So it basically draws you a card, right? You're banishing a card from your graveyard, and then you search your deck for it, and you can play that card that turn. So if you blocked with any kind of card that you want to play after this, a Pounding Gale for just free 5 damage, if you want to play 100 Winds that you blocked with, a Rising Knee Thrust, anything is just a free card, and it's a 0 for 4 Go Again. So this is a very good effect. You're definitely going to play these in Katsu. I mean, you're playing all 3 of the reds. You might even play the blues. And I think this is going to make Katsu want to go really all in on his signature line with the Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave. Whelming Gust Wave was already a great card. The red is a 0 for 4 on-hit draw card, Go Again. So already pretty good with this combo. This is just a great way to follow it up. And I'm hoping we see a few more of these that really push Katsu into being, at least close to as strong as Fi is, because right now he is the much weaker ninja, and this Katsu's in the set, so hopefully he becomes a good ninja as well. And then the very exciting card is from Mr. Mark Poole here, a new Ranger equipment Quiver type, which is the first we've seen, and this is, I think, them trying to push Ranger a little stronger, because right now Rangers on average are a bit weaker, because this is a just free card. This is a card that Ranger just starts with as long as it's in your deck, and it doesn't take up any of your current equipment slots. It just starts on the battlefield, right? And because of that, the effect isn't quite as strong, but getting a free card is worth it anyways, right? If I told you, here's a free equipment, it doesn't take up any of your equipment slots, you just get to start with it. All you have to do is give me 1 card from your 80, right? It just has to be one of your 80 cards. You'd probably take it unless it was blank. Unless or negatively impacted you, right? And this can be positive. So I think all Rangers are going to play this. It is a Majestic, so there might be a legendary version or rare or common versions of Quivers. It does seem like it's going to be a way for them to finally bring Rangers up to the power level of a lot of the rest of the classes. So yeah, like I said, a Quiver can be equipped in a weapon zone in addition to a bow. So you've got your 2-handed bow, and then you've also got your Quiver now, just for free in addition to it. This one has the ability of an instant. You pay 3 resources to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an arrow, you can put it face up your arsenal, and you can destroy, you destroy Quiver of Rustling Leaves. So even though this is like a one-time effect, it's just straight after you use it, it's free, right? So you don't really lose anything by adding this into your deck other than the 1 card slot. The effect is also not the strongest, but it lets you fix hands that are, a lot of blues. Like if you're playing Lexi, you draw 4 ice cards and none of them are arrows. There's all blue ice cards that you were gonna hopefully only draw 1 of per turn, or maybe 2 of per turn, and you draw all 4. You can just pitch 1 or 2 of them into this and get at least a less awful hand. Like, you can turn one of those cards into an arrow, maybe still do something. It's not that bad. It's also an instant, so for a deck like Azalea, Azalea's boat is not an instant. Lexi will often load arrows at the beginning of the turn, the first turn of the game, and just try to get those going. But Azalea did not have that luxury, right? She couldn't just load arrows using Voltaire at the beginning of the first turn of the game on turn 0. Now Azalea can kind of do that, right? She can pitch some blues into the quiver and at least get an arrow in her arsenal at the turn 0 of the game. So that's kind of a nice luxury to have. And, I think Rangers aren't going to be mad about having just a free new equipment slot that they can utilize in the form of quivers. So I'm pretty excited to see this. The art's gorgeous, obviously, from Mark Poole here. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. Hopefully some stronger quivers even, but we will see. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time.